Hey everyone, welcome back to Keep the Community Fed podcast by White Center Food Bank. This is episode 2. We have a really exciting episode in store for you. I'm one of your hosts, Carmen, the executive director of White Center Food Bank, joined by...
Hey everybody, I'm Gabbi Gonzales. I'm the co-chair for the White Center Food Bank board.
And I am Mike Playford. I am the operations director at the White Center Food Bank.
Welcome, Mike. I did write an ode to you that I'd like to share that I thought I was going to share before you introduced yourself, but I'd love to share it now.
Wait, can I cut you off?
Yes.
I want to make sure that folks know that we also have Jefferson Rose in the room, who...
Right here,
I'll let you...
producing
Yeah.
Keep the Community Fed podcast. Let's go.
Also our development and communications director. And then Randy Nguyen.
Yeah, Wayne here. Videographer, behind the scenes.
And our marketing and community outreach.
Outreach engagement.
Dang. I always mess
Hey,
that
Randy.
up.
It's the same thing.
So sorry. Okay.
So I can tell by this episode that you're already going to steer the ship, which I love. So here we go.
As an operations director does.
Yeah,
You guys introduced
exactly.
yourselves. I thought it was my turn to introduce myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, great. So Mike, from the first time I met Mike, it was his willingness to learn, and equal to that, he recognized his privilege and wanted to use that privilege to make a positive change. For me, it's that combined with his professional experience and desire to be a part of what we're doing at the White Center Food Bank. That's why I'm excited that you're here today, Mike.
Thanks, buddy.
Welcome.
Appreciate that.
That's such a nice introduction. I did not have anything prepared, but I'm excited to have Mike here. He is basically the wheels to the food bank, makes the engine, makes everything run, makes it move forward. He's been with us for almost 3 years now.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, February.
Yeah, and something that I appreciated him from the first moment I met him was just his authenticity about himself. He very much know who you are, and that's not something we get to see a lot. And also, like what you said, his willingness to learn and always be open. And so you've been such a wonderful asset to the White Center Food Bank community and to the team. So we're so lucky to have you and so honored to get to have you here and talk about all the wonderful things you do at the food bank.
Too kind. Thank you very much.
So can you maybe introduce yourself a little more in depth and also share a little bit about maybe your history and why you wanted to work at White Center Food Bank in the first place?
So I am from very rural Michigan. I grew up in Hillsdale. It's about a town of 5,000 people. It is very religious. Like the most alt-right college in America was like a block away from my house. So I grew up like a very conservative background, very religious, borderline Republican probably. And once I graduated, I went to Michigan State, and so that kind of really broadened my view of the world. I met a lot of really awesome people I'm still friends with today. Really kind of helped me realize, one, start recognizing that privilege that we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. Once I graduated from there, I worked for a geophysics company based out of Toronto, and that really opened my worldview. I traveled all over the world. I've worked in probably 15 different countries on 4 different continents, from some of the remotest areas in Papua New Guinea to the Arctic tundra, like you kind of name it.
Wow.
And then that's what really kind of put me on that path to kind of understanding how privileged I was as a white person, especially as a white American. I often tell a story of one of my friends, Jamari's from St. Lucia, and when he and I would go work in different places, like he would need to bring a whole binder of stuff. Like we're talking bank statements, like lots of stuff. When you have, an American passport, you basically can just go wherever you want. Mm-hmm. Nobody really questions your intentions. After that, I worked at the port for a minute. That was all the crazy things you can think of that happened there. We don't need to go into it. Then I worked at AmerisourceBergen, which was pharmaceutical distribution. That probably for me was almost more formative than some of the other stuff, just working for like a major corporation and just kind of seeing how people at the bottom are treated, especially people of color. And that really is what kind of drove me into, nonprofit work in general, specifically the food bank. When I moved to Seattle, I kind of had like a really negative view of people that needed to use a food bank, whether unhoused people especially. And at the time I was with a partner who just kind of challenged me on that, and she just said, well, like, what do you know about that community? And I was like, well, I don't. Right. It was just kind of all the things that you think you know. And then I went and worked there for a while. I volunteered there for a couple of years, and you just kind of meet the community and you realize like this is not what you thought. And so that was really what drove me to applying for the food bank. And then, as fate would have it, like Carmen and the team hired me.
You volunteered at the Cherry Street Food Bank? Okay, yeah. I remember that in your cover letter, you mentioning that, and just, I think you said, this is my dream job based on my experience getting to volunteer at the Cherry Street Food Bank. And I was like, somebody with his like skill set and his resume, like having traveled all over the world, I was like, damn, that is really saying something. And it was so, I loved meeting you and just like getting to see like the grinds, the wheels turning. Yeah. Gears grinding. There we go.
I mean, they do grind sometimes.
But you could like see it on your face sometimes. And I remember walking through the warehouse with you, and I was like, oh, he's already thinking through like how to streamline some of these processes and like how to make this organization better. And, that is exactly what we needed at the time too. And like just the way you've been able to transform a lot of the logistics and systems, I think has been really transformational for us as an organization. I'm so curious, like, because you started a couple months after Jefferson, and, we knew about our move and this building that we had to renovate. So I'm so curious, like, what you thought about that, what you thought about it during, like, the interview process, like, going into this organization with this huge change happening.
For me, it was actually one of the reasons I wanted to even pursue the role more. Like, during the first round with Pam and Heather, they told me that, I think that was even one of the questions, was just like, how do you feel about this move? And I was like, great. I mean, that was part of my old role as well. I launched a new facility, shut down a couple other facilities, and launched another one. So for me, I was really excited to, like, I really enjoy that, like, setting up of a new space and, like, how do we, like you said, make it more efficient, or just, like, what's the most logical layout to, like, so we don't have to do it again, one. And so for me, I would say I was actually really excited to, like, one, just be part of the process, and two, we have talked about in the past, like, we were building something awesome, right? Like, with so much intentionality. And for me to have, like, I live down the street in Delridge. So for me, it was like, I drive past this thing all, that stretch all the time. And so for me, a lot of it was, a legacy thing of just like, we get to build this awesome space that, like, I'm going to see for the rest of my life. My kids are going to see it. Like, whoever else comes along. Like, for me, that was a big driver.
Yeah. How did you feel going through the move last year? Because that was something we talked about last episode. Just like, kind of just, I mean, of course, it ended up being really chaotic because our date kept getting pushed back. But
I mean, I thought we absolutely nailed it. I think we have wonderful volunteers. And I think that speaks to the organization, right? Of like, hey guys, we want you to help you move. We're not really sure when it's going to be, or how it's gonna look. And they were just like, yeah, whatever, like, we trust you guys are gonna make a smart decision and be smart about it. And they really stepped up. I mean, we did that in like 3 days.
yeah, it was incredible. And it was like everything was in the building on the last possible day, like right before the holiday break in December. So that is a huge testament to the volunteers and just like people showing up and the people that care about this organization, right? From staff to volunteers and board members, just everybody knows it's like all hands on deck. And as Jefferson says, like the community always shows up for us, and it's very true. So during your interview, like the first question I think I asked you was, what meal reminds you of home? You want to share with the listeners what meal reminds you of home?
We have talked about this question a lot, and you've heard a lot of iterations, and I think I've been thinking a lot about it, and I think for me it's not so much about the meal, but as like the ritual. So my nana was Sicilian, and every Sunday we would go to their house and we would have like pasta and meatballs. And she makes a really good pasta and meatballs, don't get me wrong. And it's crazy because we always thought it was some like secret family recipe or something. And she's like, no, I got off like the back of a box. I was just like, way to like dispel those illusions that I've been saying for years. Anyways, I think the biggest part for me was just getting with my family. Like my Aunt Lena would always come and we would, just sit down as a family once a week and just like enjoy a good meal together. And like I always have like a lot of positive memories of their house and just like always doing that on Sundays.
That has been a theme that's kind of gone through answers, is that like folks may like know what their meal is, but it's also like what was happening around the meal, who made the meal, and what what that feeling really was when you're eating the meal. So thank you for sharing that. Do you mind if I like take a step back to like a different part of the conversation? You talked about your why a little bit at the beginning, and that was something when we first had an opportunity to chat that you were like very clear about. Like you knew why you were applying at a nonprofit or worked now at a nonprofit, and you knew why you wanted to work at a nonprofit. And I wonder if that why around food banks has changed for you at all over the last 3 years, and what your current why is.
Love that.
Yes, I do think it has changed. I think it's less about me now and more about the community as a whole. And I really think a lot about changing the narrative of food banking, especially the more that I've learned, where I think of it more as not even as a social good, but as something that people have paid into. Like it's no different than if you got unemployment or something like that. Like your tax dollars are like buying that food. It's not free. And I think that is something that I think a lot about, and I try to change people's kind of thought processes around that, especially folks that don't feel comfortable coming to the food bank, like they feel like they're taken from somebody else or something like that. And I'm like, have you paid taxes in your life? And it's like, well, yes. And it's like, well, that's where that food comes from. It's not like, some charity to, I think it's too much thought of as like a charity versus just like, like as like a public safety net, because that's really what it is.
Yeah, one of the things that Carmen taught me that I carry through the work is how subsidized food at a grocery store is, right? So when we're talking about providing food to a community for no cost, like it's a no-brainer a little bit, right? Because you're right, we do pay taxes for a reason, and because things are subsidized at so many different levels that really why should a basic need like food even be a choice for folks?
Right. Like thinking of like the larger agricultural system, right? And how they get a lot of government subsidies. And yeah, so just, I mean, everybody can come to the food bank. Like there's so much stigma around it. And like you both are right. Like it's something that collectively like people do pay into, and it's a right. I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest thing is that just that food is a human right, and there's no shame in coming into the food bank. It's in a way free at the time, but in the end, it's something that people do have to pay into one way or another. And I love like reframing that for folks, knowing like you deserve this, like you have contributed to this, so it is okay to come into White Center Food Bank or any food bank and get the food that your family deserves.
So we've talked a little bit about like the technical like side of the food bank and you helping organize it and the move. And we also talked about what meal makes you feel like home and the people connected to that. Do you want to share a little bit about the White Center Food Bank community, customer base, volunteers, like whatever you feel moved to share about, and share what a piece of that community means to you?
Yeah, I think that another misconception is that kind of all food banks are created equal, right? And they're not. Like every food bank has like a very specific population that they're helping to serve, and that may change from place to place, right? So Cherry Street Food Bank was a lot of, folks that were on house just because we were downtown. It was like in First Hill, right? And so I think one of the bigger revelations for me down here was just like most of our customers are older folks, right? Like retired, we have people that are coming in there that are in their 80s, and our unhoused population is maybe a couple people a day, maybe, right? And so I think for me that was a kind of the bigger one. And then the people are just so nice. Like you get to know the customers, right? Like they learn who, as a volunteer, like even as a volunteer, I think people learn your face and stuff, but when you're like a perpetual presence there, like, if someone sees me working at intake or something, like, hey, what are you doing up here? Right. And like, cause they know that I'm not normally doing that, and you just kind of get to, in the cadence that people are there 3 times a month. Right. And so, who your Monday crew is, and, they know who you are. And if they see you on the street, they'll give you like a nod, depending on how comfortable they are kind of acknowledging each other. Like, you see folks in the community all the time, and it's just kind of to nice out of that like extra connection. And so I think that would be the biggest one for me, just kind of learning that new populace, and just, I don't know where to go with that one. Sorry.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thanks for sharing.
What does your, like, as the operations director, what does like your day-to-day look like, maybe week to week?
That is an ever-changing day.
What
for
does
sure.
an operations
Yeah, is that a
director
good thing?
do?
I would say, to kind of steal from you, is, my role is to support the team and kind of whatever they need. So if someone's sick or some volunteers are out, a lot of my day is just kind of filling in the holes and just making sure things keep running as smoothly as possible. I really believe that, the food bank should, especially when we're having our customers through there, is like, we want to provide like the most seamless, experience for them. They come in with their certain expectations, and like, I want us to be at their expectations. And so for me, I think a big day-to-day driver, just like making sure that that's set. And if that's set, then it's doing all the other random stuff, whether it's with the vehicles or the building or picking up donations or shopping the dock, much I love that.
You want to tell listeners about Shop the Dock?
The easy version is that Food Lifeline, who's like our biggest provider of food, they run a program similar to our grocery rescue, where they have food that they really need to just get out into the world quickly. And so like the biggest one for us is like bread. So like I probably get $1,000 worth of, people don't think bread is like particularly like a sexy thing, but I mean, a loaf of bread's like $5 right now. And so, I go down there 4 days a week and pick up probably a couple hundred loaves of bread a time. Right. And so our customers really appreciate that. They want sliced bread. They don't want the fancy bread from PCC.
Yeah.
What is it about Shop the Dock that you really enjoy?
It's just like the excitement of what are you going to get?
Yeah.
It's like shopping.
Yeah.
But like, you don't know what you're going to get. It's like surprise shopping, right?
Yeah, like Joey one time got like $15,000 worth of Toblerone
Oh,
candy bars. And so there's
Yes.
like always that little competition of who's gonna
Who can find the best product?
Dragon fruit's a good one too.
That is a good one. So Gosh, I don't remember what year it was. Maybe 2019. Because we are so close to Food Lifeline, it's like what, like a 5 or 6 minute drive.
Yeah.
It's so close. So Mike pretty much goes every distribution day that we're open, so 4 days a week. But back in 2019, me and one other staff person went to shop the dock because we needed produce. And they had like cases and cases of dragon fruit. And we were like, we've never had dragon fruit in the store. Like, I wonder if our customers will like this. Like, just from our personal experiences, we knew it was expensive in store. And so we were just kind of like, what the hell? Let's just try it and see what happens. And I think we got 30 cases and they went so fast. Our customers are so hyped that we had dragon fruit. And so it kind of like signaled to us like, oh, this is an important fruit or product for our community, and maybe this is something we should think about trying to have more often. So that's why we tried growing our own dragon fruit plants that,
How'd
don't
that go?
well, if you've been to the food bank, they're on display, but they're not fruiting.
Dragon fruiting.
Yeah, they're not fruiting at the moment, but people should Google a dragon fruit tree and just like see what they look like. They're so cool. The mature ones look like a giant Christmas cactus. And yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are so beautiful. I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
So they're so neat. But we learned that lesson because of Shop the Dock. And so it's really awesome that Mike has the capacity and is able to go down to Food Lifeline, 4 times a week when we're having distribution and get bread for folks or whatever else. Toblerone. I can't say that word. Chocolate.
You know what our customers don't like?
What?
Parsnips.
Parsnips. I don't. Also learned from a Shop the Dock experience.
I got like 1,000 pounds of parsnips one time.
I wonder why that is.
Oh, these are so nice. Look at all these parsnips. And then I could not give them away.
Did people think they were daikons?
No.
No, they knew
were
they
not
weren't
fooled.
daikons.
No.
Yeah, they knew. They knew they were not daikons. Yeah. Good old Shop the Dock. So something else that is kind of like a big thing in your wheelhouse is holiday distributions. And, that's coming up here very soon. And it's something that I think White Center Food Bank has been doing for quite a long time, but it definitely has grown since I've started at the food bank, which was, almost 8 years ago now. But pretty much so the way we used to do holiday distribution for November and December, and this was back when folks could have only 2 visits a month. So one visit would be a regular food visit, and then we would flip kind of the product available and do a holiday specific distribution. And everybody had to make appointments for those. And it became very tight. We had done that with the line model and then did it with the grocery store model, and had lines outside with the specific holiday, like specific time, appointment times. And then it was hard on the staff too, because, they would have to essentially flip the product over like in a night or a weekend. And we really, I think it was probably 2020 when we changed it. And made it available for the whole month of November and December. And it would be, you could still get your regular food. So at that time we had changed to 3 visits a month. And so people could shop still their 3 visits and then use their holiday visit when they wanted. And that's back when we were out in the parking lot.
Yeah,
doing
shout out to the red holiday distribution tent.
I know. I thought that was the only thing I knew how to say in Vietnamese, and then I repeated it to Chio, and she's like, "No, that's wrong."
Well, am I wrong, or is the food that goes out at holiday distribution evolved over the years as well?
It has too. So that is like the history of it during my time. And, when Mike started and having more capacity and having fresh eyes too was really important for how we've transformed holiday distributions. And I don't want to take all of your thunder talking about all the things that you do, but
We do.
yes, that we do together. But now, I mean, it's similar, but it's different. Like, we're not outside in a parking lot anymore. It's all in the grocery store. Do you want to talk about like your method to holiday distribution?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we did was just have holiday for everybody versus trying to figure out who celebrates what holiday. I know Thanksgiving is and Christmas are pretty ambiguous, but for some
Right.
of our cultural holidays, right, we kind of recognize that maybe we were excluding some folks on accident, just kind of based on what we thought they should be celebrating, and also kind of the learning opportunity for other cultures to kind of, some learning could be done too. But I know you're going to talk about those holidays later, but yeah, but for like Thanksgiving and Christmas, we changed up how we did that distribution where you kind of get your little ticket and then, when you're on your way out the door, you can hand that in, and then we just have all of those items just ready to go. So, you don't need a special anything. You can do it at the start of the month. You can do it at the end of the month. Kind of your decision when you want to get that stuff versus, forcing people to take it on 2 days before the holiday or whatever. And, this year we're even doing it a little more differently where we kind of, now we're up to, 2,200 holiday folks per, go. And we just kind of recognize
Wow.
that, just to get, typically we would do turkeys and other stuff and it just wasn't in the budget this year. And so we put it to a vote to the community of like, well, what do you guys want? Right. Like, we can either afford just a turkey or we can give you a chicken plus the sides. And so we saw like a pretty overwhelming response for like, 2-to-1 would prefer just like the chicken.
People love the chicken from my experience when I did
Yeah.
holiday distribution. Like, people like a large Thanksgiving or Christmas turkey. Like, a lot of people don't know what to do with that. Like, I don't know what to do with that necessarily. And they really liked the different options for meats.
Yeah. Sometimes, like, there's some folks that come specifically for the turkey. Yeah. And so I think we're trying to be mindful of, like, not excluding all of those folks, but also, like, okay, what does the collective want? Like, let's make an informed decision, too, and not just, like, make assumptions about what people are wanting for the holidays. And it's been really fun because we tried this new thing, I guess, like kind of over the summer to collect customer feedback. I think we've tried like doing just like a paper survey and like making sure everything's translated in all the languages that needs to be translated. And, the intake staff, like keeping a tally of the customers they ask, like, what kind of food do you want to see? And so over the summer, we came up with like doing these, as Mike said, like voting, but they're like little boxes with like pictures on them. So, and some translations too. And so, for a week or two, every customer that comes in gets a little token to cast their vote on whatever it is. I think we asked about fruit one time and then vegetables, but more recently it was, do you want a turkey? So Mike had found like this little cartoon picture of like a roasted turkey and put it on one of the boxes. And then like, oh, Randy did. Thank you. Randy found a cute little picture. And then,
Of course it was Randy.
yeah, right. And then one with chicken and like a bunch of sides. And so it was like 2/3 of our customers wanted chicken and like all the extra stuff, and a third wanted the turkeys. So Mike moved forward with ordering chicken and chicken and the sides and the fixins. So what are the other items that folks are going to get for the November holiday?
So we're doing oil, sugar, and cornstarch.
Oh,
Those are the
cornstarch.
three.
Yeah, that cornstarch is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, when we developed our budget for this year, like we did not anticipate kind of the numbers that we're seeing right now, and so it's just kind of this is where we're at.
Yeah, we didn't predict a 40% increase over our numbers last year. I think we were going for like 15 or something like that. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, we definitely knew we would be experiencing more customers, but I don't think any of us, well, except for Tracy. She told me.
She won the bet.
She did. She won $50 from me on that one.
$50.
Yeah. And bragging rights, which I think she almost prefers to the $50.
I mean, yeah.
Tracy, one of the amazing people that does our intake
Yes.
at the food bank.
What was the bet?
She had said that we would see like twice as many people, and I was like, no. Be
She
like
knows the
10%.
community.
She does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that was a lot of what, drove how we, in the holidays, we just had to kind of pivot on a little bit because it's just, we could not swing that.
Yeah, we weren't. Yeah, it is what it is. Like,
Well, I feel like we could do a whole episode on that, right? Like the increase of customers at the food bank as well as the fundraising climate as it is today.
yeah, for sure. And something that I've been looking at lately is just like, where are we now versus kind of 2019 or pre-COVID, and like how have our numbers changed? And I try to provide it in the board reports too. So maybe Gabby has seen them there. But for a while, it was like 300% over our 2019 numbers. So it's just a continuing need that is continuing to grow. And without some real changes, I mean, this is probably going to be our new normal. Like last week, was it last week? We saw 307 families in one day, which, is probably over double what was comfortable at the old space. Don't you think?
Yeah, 150 was a big day for us at the other space, and hard. Now it's, you can do 300 and it's just another day at the office.
Yeah, even Tracy was like, it didn't even feel that busy.
Tracy's going to be like we're going to drop her name in and everybody's going to be so excited about
Especially when she comes on as a guest. Mm-hmm. Hopefully she does.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it's interesting, right? Because excitingly, moving into a new space, we're opening ourselves up to new customers and folks just driving by and being able to like be attracted into the food bank in a way that we weren't in our old building. And then just the need is there too, right? I wonder, should we pivot to talking about, we were kind of speaking about fundraising. Do you have more questions before?
I mean, I don't think so. Unless you want to talk about December holiday.
I have no idea about December.
We're not there yet.
We're not even into November yet.
I'm pushing for coffee, but
this is actually the November episode. So
can't make any promises.
No coffee.
No coffee. It smelled so good in there the other day when there was some coffee. I noticed it immediately.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Maybe we have any Starbucks listeners they can.
Oh yeah, Starbucks listeners.
We're looking for a sponsor.
Coffee. Customers want coffee. 2,200 bags, please. Thank you. So
Great.
fundraising. I mean, so we kind of started talking about that a little bit and like how the landscape has changed, and we just had an event.
So, this being our November episode, it's the first episode since we had our Bring It Home event. And we thought maybe it'd be fun to do a little bit of a recap about how that went.
That's a good idea, I think. So do you have the final numbers, Jefferson? Do you know about how much we raised?
The final numbers are looking about a little over $103,000.
Wow. And our goal was 100,000.
100,000. So we
Surpassed.
Surpassed our goal. That's awesome. That was probably, I mean, I love the Taste of White Center. This is a different event, right? But it was my favorite event of ours that I've ever been to or gotten to be a part of.
So for folks that don't already know, do you want to give a little bit of a rundown about what the Bring It Home event was?
Yeah, so this is kind of, it was an event to kind of like kick off closing the gap on our capital campaign. So 75% raised in 2 years, over $6 million. So we have just like the other 25%, which is around $2 million to kind of close the gap and essentially pay off our loan with Craft 3. And so we knew going into this event, like we weren't going to raise the whole $2 million, but we kind of wanted to do something kind of to celebrate our achievement, right, of getting this far, so far. And that is really what the event was centered about. But we had a really awesome program, amazing food from El Catrine. Like, got so many compliments about the
so
food.
good.
Oh my gosh, yes. And Gabbi and I were a part of a fireside chat with Senator Nguyen and one of our volunteers, Ashley, who also has this amazing skill. Like, she's an auctioneer. Professionally an auctioneer, and so we learned that by just inviting her to be a part of the fireside chat, and she did an incredible job. But the fireside chat panel got to share a little bit about just what the new building means to each of us, some of our favorite memories about White Center Food Bank, and where we're going. And then we had a really fun live auction. We had specialty cocktails that I got to pick out, and that was really fun to see. And learned that one of our supporters, that was her favorite cocktail. So I'm going to have to go out with her and get drinks sometime. And we had 2 amazing videos done by Via Creatives, kind of just talking about our organization and talking about the ancillary programs that we do. I think, Mike, you've shared that it's like 20,000 pounds of food a month go out to those. More?
It's like 30.
30 now. 30,000 pounds of food a month go out to these ancillary programs. So we have 3 senior housing sites that we support, 4 CMAR pantries now, 4, and then 3 school resource centers that we furnish food for their food pantries for. So we got to share that with folks. And then also, I got to give a speech and share kind of where the food bank is going and a lot of the work that we've done around our strategic plan.
Yeah, I think for me, who does not typically hang at traditional galas, this felt.
It's a gathering. Remember from the last episode, it's a gathering.
where we were building relationship. Besides the community that comes out to support us, one of my favorite pieces was the fireside chat. I think that we talk a lot about like what happens when we get in conversation together and what true relationship building looks like. And we got to show an example of that on the stage at Bring It Home. And like truly, like, thank you, Jefferson. Thank you, Randy. One of my favorite things to really like personalize it and like bring it into my heart was we got to choose our walk-on music.
Yeah.
It was super exciting. Carmen was like, what do you want your song to be? So I thought we could take a second to kind of share why we chose our song. When Carmen originally told me that I could choose my walk-on song, my original idea was Manic Monday. Because that's the vibe I was feeling.
And it was on a Friday. So
But interestingly enough, like the choice ended up really easy. I ended up choosing the song No Rain by Blind Melon. And I chose that song because I have these very specific memories of my mom and myself. She was driving me to school, and we would crank that song up and we would sing it together. And something that feels and felt that night really important to me is always calling her into the room.
Yeah.
When I get to share with community, when I am speaking on social justice, food justice, other
love
topics
that.
like that. Yeah. I truly wanted to bring her into the space. And so there's nothing else for me like that than getting to dance while I walk onto a stage to Blind Melon's No Rain. How about you?
So I chose Let Me Blow Your Mind, originally by Eve, but I chose a cover by Ruby Ibarra. She is a Philippine hip hop artist. Grew up born in the Philippines, but grew up in California. And that song it's been in my life for a really long time. And I think why is because being who I am, being a mixed race person, growing up in a very white neighborhood and area is like I was always underestimated. And I think because of that, I've always had this like feeling that I have to prove myself and like push my own boundaries to like be there and be present. And so there's a part that actually Gwen Stefani originally sings that is like, it took a while to get me here, but I'm going to take my time. Mm-hmm. And I feel that because I've worked hard to get to where I'm at. And right now I'm like in this phase of just enjoying and being and feeling really grateful, getting to be a part of the food bank. And I also like representing my heritage as well and like bringing my ancestors into the room. So for folks that weren't at the event, you could probably find pictures on social media, but I'm wearing a traditional Philippine butterfly sleeve. And so I was telling folks like I'm carrying my ancestors with me tonight on stage. And you can probably expect to see me wearing something at most of our events that includes my heritage as well. And so that's also why I chose a Philippine hip hop artist. Jefferson, you should share yours.
So I chose Fool in the Rain from Led Zeppelin, and it's not as deep of a story as you guys. Well, when I was little, I wanted to be a professional baseball player, and then when I heard Fool in the Rain for the first time, I thought, and this was in high school, past those times of having that dream, but I thought if I ever was a professional baseball player, this would be my walk-up song.
Oh, wow.
Because, every time a baseball player gets up to bat, they get to choose their song. But I thought for this event, as a development director for the food bank, and this is a fundraising event, the lyrics that we only heard just the very beginning, but it starts, there's a light in your eye that keeps shining like a star that can't wait for the night. And it was just like looking out into the audience and seeing everybody looking up, that I thought that those lyrics actually fit for the evening as well. So,
I love that.
and I just love that song.
Yeah.
My band plays it sometimes. So.
That's great.
John was the most excited about your song.
Of course he was.
Led Zeppelin. Like he loves Led Zeppelin.
Sometime we should have John on the show and see what he says.
I know. Mike, what would your walk-up song be?
It'd be Sandstorm by Darude.
Oh my
Gosh. Are you an old raver kid? Because
Oh, I love CD95 as my radio station.
Yeah, you always know when Mike picks the music in the food bank.
Randy, do you have an answer to the question?
I don't, but can I share a moment that I had during the event?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jefferson had invited Shoshana from White Center Heights to come to the event, but she couldn't come. So Via Creatives had done a video shoot with the Family Resource Center, and one of the students, who's a fifth grader, he manages a social media and calls himself the CEO of the Family Resource Center. And
He's the one that told you that the White Center Food Bank needs a TikTok.
yep.
Okay,
yep,
okay.
Exactly. And,
Which we do.
He knows what he's doing.
So Shonda couldn't go, so she gave the tickets to the student and his mom. And then I remember during the event, he came out to me and he recognized me and said, thank you. He wanted to translate for his mom and said, thank you so much for inviting my mom and myself and his brother. So I thought it was super wholesome. And to me, think about like, you don't have to donate during an event, but just come with your support of the food bank. And I just thought that was super wholesome. So
I love that.
yeah.
I loved that there were kids at the event, actually. Like, you brought your family, and I love that there were kids at the event because, I mean, they're the future. It's important for, I think, to have them get to experience these things too. And it's a reminder to me, like, this is why we do what we do, is because we essentially raising, like, I'm not directly, but you know what I mean, like, we're raising like the future generation of leaders. And I think a lot of times we leave kids out of things, but I love that we just like include them in so many things, and that, you know, even a fundraising event is for everyone, whether you're donating or not.
Yeah, I love that, like, these intentional changes that we're making around the ways that we raise money and the ways that we call community into space. You know, there's like the old school gala, which really is no longer a fit for our organization.
Yeah.
And so we're really starting to do things differently. It's that having youth there, having like multi-generations, having time for conversation, feeling like having culturally relevant food, feeling like we don't have to fit to like a specific schedule or what a gala or gathering should look like, and really pushing out of those like old historical norms and moving into what is authentically really true to the White Center Food Bank and true to who we are as individuals and professionals.
One of the things that I really love too was we invited a lot of community partners, like kind of waiving the fee for a ticket, and just said, you know, just be there. We want our community in the room. And we got to tell our story, not just to our donors, but to our partners. And many of those partners were moved to donate significant amounts of dollars too, or whatever felt significant to them. Not
Right.
necessarily significant to us, but significant to them. And you know, it was just inspiring. It was inspiring to see our community come out in that way and to support us in whatever way that they can, and they always do.
Yeah, there was somebody that came, like, I don't know at what time, but on the later side, and was just like, is there any food left? And Robert, our development and events coordinator, was like, yeah, there's a bunch of food left, like, you know, grab a plate and go to the food table. And it wasn't even a question of like, are you supposed to be here or not, or anything. It was just like, yeah, if you want food, like, come in. Like, that's just what we do. And I really love that. And I think, you know, Gabby, what you were saying earlier about just like kind of staying true to ourselves and doing events that work best for us as an organization, like, that shines through. That shines out to community. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback about our event, and I think it's because we stayed true to ourselves and who we are as an organization. Like, somebody told me, like, whoa, like, that was like so intimate. It was so community focused. It was so fun. Like, when are galas that fun, or like a live auction or silent auction? Like, yeah, they're fun, but it's just like a different vibe. It's just everyone belongs there. Everyone who should be there is there, and it doesn't matter, right, how much you give. It's just giving from your heart, and that can look really different. It might not be money. It could be donating your time or just bringing people along to just see the good work that White Center Food Bank does.
Any other thoughts on the gala?
I mean, I haven't said anything this entire segment, so I guess I'll contribute something.
Thanks, Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
Hey, one thing I've learned is just to be quiet and listen to the food bank.
That's cool.
So.
I just took over this segment.
I think my favorite thing was when you called out our second resident chef, Christina.
Oh,
because she's just like the best, and I really appreciate what she brings to the food bank. It's, sometimes it's not stocking the shelves or, doing the heavy lifting. It's, making a delicious meal for the staff and the other volunteers. And there's, something to be said for that type of support as well. And once again, just kind of adds to our like overall vibe as a crew. And the event was just, I think, so positive. Like, it was just, the energy was like, you could just like feel the positivity and the love in the room. And it didn't feel, I think those can feel stuffy sometimes, or just, just not particularly fun, and everyone there was just like wanted to be there. And I really appreciated that as well.
Well, I guess we could sit here and talk all night, but that's all we have time for today. But our next episode is super exciting.
Super excited.
Do you want to share should we give a little teaser about our December episode with Roxana?
Yes. So we are going to have another special guest next month. We're going to welcome in Roxana Garcia from Alimentando del Pueblo, which is a Latino-focused food bank in Burien.
And the only one in the U.S., I think she said. Yes.
Yes.
So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Mike, for joining us. I'll see you tomorrow. But that's it for episode 2 of Keep the Community Fed podcast. Make sure you listen and subscribe anywhere you find your podcast. If you like watching podcasts, you can follow us on YouTube and get your podcast that way. Otherwise, make sure you follow us on all the socials at White Center Food Bank. Thank you so much.
See you next month.
Bye.